of course, I don't think this first story is going to come as a surprise to anybody. We are talking about Mr. Damian Lillard, who on Monday, I think it was Monday, the 26th of February, whenever that was, Sunday, pardon me, the 26th of February, Sunday night against the Houston Rockets, Damian Lillard put on an all-time performance, scoring 71 points on 22 of 38 shooting, including 13 of 22 from the three-point line. He made all 14 of his free throws. He finished with a plus minus of plus 21. Also added 6 rebounds and 6 assists just for good measure. And he did all of this in just under 40 minutes of playing time. Now, of course, it's always historic when an NBA player goes for 70. This is the second time this season that we've had an NBA player go for 70. Both Dame and Donovan Mitchell have had 71 this year. This is also coming on quite the stretch for Damian Lillard. I think over these last couple of weeks or so, he's averaging upwards of like 40. Yeah, okay. So just from January, we'll start on January 2nd. In 24 games in 2023, Damian Lillard is averaging 36.5 points per game on 50% shooting and 39% from three. He is effectively a 50-40-90 guy while averaging 36.5 points per game. He's had multiple 50 pieces. He's had a handful of 40 pieces. He's had a couple of 60 pieces as well. And now this 71-point performance from him against the Houston Rockets, which are, of course, a glorified AAU team at the NBA level. But I'm not one of those weirdos who's here to poo-poo Damian Lillard's performance. I'm not here to be a hater like I've seen so many people, not so many people, like I've seen people online be a hater, try to diminish what Damian Lillard has done. But before I get into that, we're just going to go ahead. Now, Damian Lillard has the third most 60-point games of all time, trailing, of course, only Wilt and Kobe. Wilt has 32, Kobe has 6, and Damian Lillard now has 5. This was the highest true shooting percentage in a 70-point game at 80.4%. 13 made threes. It ties the NBA single game record. Now, if you have yet to watch these highlights, go back and watch them. It was a shot-making clinic that Dame put on. The array of shots, particularly from the perimeter, that this dude made, it is an unrivaled skill set in NBA history. The only guy who even comes close to doing what Damian Lillard does is Steph Curry. Those guys are now closer to each other than ever before. There are a handful of guys who can replicate this on certain evenings. Luka Doncic comes to mind. Kyrie Irving comes to mind. But Dame's shot making from beyond 30 feet puts him in a class with really only Steph Curry at this point, with the volume and the efficiency that he can make those shots with as well. There was this one triple that he hit, I believe it was in the first half, I can't recall, where he takes one dribble over half court and he gathers on the logo and just pulls up from 36 feet. An NBA, a regulation NBA basketball court is 94 feet long. He was at 36. He was essentially pulling up from half court. That is one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen happen on a basketball court. Mainly because that type of shot is not even supposed to be made. It's not even supposed to be taken. Like, we see ankle breakers all the time. We see poster dunks all the time. Stuff like that is supposed to happen. You know that if you're a big guy, you will get crossed over at some point by a guard. And you know that if you're a little guy, you will get dunked on at some point. It's not really that, you know, embarrassing. I mean, sometimes it can be disrespectful, like what Kyrie Irving did to Brandon Knight, what DeAndre Jordan did to Brandon Knight, what Blake Griffin did to Kendrick Perkins, what Ja Morant has been doing recently. What the fuck? What Aaron Gordon did to I can't even remember who he posterized, but that stuff is supposed to happen. Nobody's supposed to be pulling up from 36 and making it with ease, and Damian Lillard is doing that. So it was an absolute clinic put on by this guy. I think JJ Redick noted that he made like 420 feet worth of shots, which is incredible. He did get drug tested. He did get drug tested after, which he was not too thrilled about. So we're just going to go ahead and take a quick peek at that. In regards to being drug tested, Dame said, I mean, honestly, I was like, are y'all serious? I did the urine test yesterday, and they backed it up with the blood draw tonight after the game, and it was actually the first time in my career being tested after a game. And then aside from that, they know I'm scared of needles. I know I've got a lot of tattoos, but when you're doing a blood draw, it's different from tattoos. Of course, like I'm not. I mean, I am kind of surprised that the NBA did decide to drug test Dame because this isn't like when Mo Williams went off for 51. Like Dame is a certified bucket getter. Dame is one of the most proficient scoring guards in the modern NBA. I mean, we could even at some point we'll even be talking about him in the history of the NBA, I feel like. But this was not necessarily really that surprising. And we've also seen players like him go on stretches like this. I mean, Cam Thomas had like a 5 game stretch where he averaged 45 points. I don't recall if he was drug tested. I mean, Kobe Bryant has had stretches like these. LeBron's had stretches like these. James Harden has had stretches like these as well. So, yeah, just an all around explosive, clinical. It wasn't even a clinical performance. It was a surgical performance. And of course, there were haters on the internet because this is 2023 and motherfuckers just cannot enjoy things. People were online once again bitching and moaning about how
Scoring in the NBA is too easy nowadays. About how the Houston Rockets are a JV defense, and it doesn't having 71 does not have the same weight as it would against the Clippers or the Nuggets or a team that's actually good.
and listen, if you think like that, you're a goober. Let people enjoy things. I don't care if the Houston Rockets are an AAU caliber defense. If it were so easy to score 70 points in an NBA basketball game, it would happen more frequently. When you're shooting 22 of 38, you are locked in on an entirely different plane of existence that only a handful of defenders would be able to stop. And even then, like when you're talking about guys like Dame, like Steph, like Luka, guys who can go for these explosive outings, not even the best defenders in the NBA can prevent them from doing that, especially if they're pulling up from 32, 33, 35, 36 feet. It's just it's not natural to have to guard somebody that far out on the perimeter. But this recent stretch by Dame has more or less triggered a conversation in my brain. I'm like schizo posting with myself about where Damian Lillard ranks among the all time great scoring guards. In his generation, there really are none better. Of the last 10, 15 years or so, when you look at like the influx of score first point guards, really the three guys that come to mind are Steph, Kyrie, and Dame. And this isn't excluding guys like Chris Paul from the conversation. This isn't excluding guys like Russell Westbrook from the conversation. But guys like Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook are just a different skill set than Steph, Dame, and Kai. Those guys are score first, always, dish second. They know that they're talented enough to carry their respective teams' offenses, so they're going to conduct themselves in that manner. Now, this recent stretch by Dame is historical, of course, but this season in particular is very historical as well for him. Currently, he's averaging 32 points. He's averaging I think it's 32.3 points and 7.5 assists a game. It's at least 7 assists a game. And he's having the most efficient season of his career. He's at 47% from the field, which is 4 percentage points above his career average. His effective field goal percentage is 57.7%. When you take those numbers, take 30 points per game, 7 assists per game, with an effective field goal percentage of 57%, the only guy in the history of the NBA that has done that is Damian Lillard this year. Even if we fudge these statistics a little bit, if we make it 30-7 with a 55% effective field goal percentage, only one other person joins that list, and that's Luka Doncic. And in fact, Damian Lillard has replicated those numbers once before, and that was a couple of years ago when he averaged 30 or so and shot 46% from the field. So Dame is, without a doubt, one of the three best point guards of his generation. I think that the numbers speak to that. The eye test speaks to that as well. There are few guards that can match his skill set, his repertoire, his range above anything else. There are just few scorers in the history of the NBA. Even if we're making it positionless, few scorers in the history of the NBA can match what Damian Lillard does. And I think this recent display really highlights how dangerous how dangerous he is from the 3-point line and how him and Steph sit in a different tier compared to someone like Kyrie Irving, who is also a very high volume score first point guard. But although Kyrie does have the ability to take these ridiculous threes and make these ridiculous threes, I don't view the perimeter aspect of Kyrie Irving's game as a tremendous part of it. I could be wrong, and this could just be me um simply not recognizing the fact, but this year, the three is 55% um of Dame's field goal attempts. His 3-point attempt rate is 55%. If we go to Kyrie Irving, I really hope that I'm right about this, because if not, it's going to be super embarrassing. But Kyrie, his 3-point attempt rate is 43%. For his career, Kyrie Irving's 3-point attempt rate is about 33%. So a third of Kyrie Irving's shots are coming from the perimeter for his career. Compare that to somebody like Dame, who's at 48%. Kyrie is very focused on getting downhill. He's very focused on getting to the cup, and that's where he separates himself from the rest of the guards. His ability to finish inside the paint is akin to what Dame and Steph can do on the perimeter. But what these guys can do on the perimeter has never been done before in the history of the NBA. And it really makes me think about, where does Damian Lillard rank among like the all-time best scoring guards? Because I didn't know this, and I don't know how I didn't know this, but Damian Lillard's career scoring average is 25.1%, or 25.1%, 25.1 points per game. He is 11th on the all-time career scoring list, which, you know, for a guy like Damian Lillard, we know that he gets buckets, but it just, his skill set hits different when you see him up there with guys like Jerry West and LeBron and KD. And I mean, he's higher than Steph on that list. And of course, that list is, the points per game list is flawed because Steph got off to a slow start in his career, injuries, this, that, whatever. But just on, based off of numbers alone, he is without a doubt in the conversation. Among guards, he ranks fifth. He's behind Jordan, Jerry West, Allen Iverson, and Oscar Robertson. But separating the numbers from the eye test, which is a term that I absolutely despise, you would be hard pressed to find any guard that's not Steph Curry that can go shot for shot with Damian Lillard, who can effectively play horse in a regulation basketball game. Because if you're just looking at some of the guys on this list, Michael Jordan, not doing what Damian Lillard is doing from the perimeter. Michael Jordan is, of course, an all-time great, but different skill set and, of course, different time. But I think that even if Jordan played now, even if AI played now, I don't think they would be able to replicate these guys' skill set because it is so unique. That's not to say that Jordan and AI and Jerry West wouldn't be lights out from the perimeter, because they'd probably be above average. I think they'd probably be around 36, 37%. But it's just like, it's almost indescribable the type of shots that Damian Lillard is taking and making. And again, like, in the context of especially the new style of play, there really are no guys who replicate it better than Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, and it's really them too. I mean, talk about James Harden as well. James Harden has been hugely instrumental in the three-point revolution, but again, it's not just the volume that these guys are taking. It is the proficiency. And it even puts Steph Curry's ridiculousness into perspective, because Steph is significantly more efficient from the perimeter than Damian Lillard is. And Dame is a monster on the three-point line. Maybe because we've grown accustomed to Steph doing this for so long. And, it's Dame is like the new shiny, he's like not the new shiny object, but Steph is out right now. The Warriors kind of stink. You need the West Coast needs an explosive guard to put up numbers. And, it's always been that way. But even still, Dame and Steph have always gone shot for shot with one another when they've matched up. When the Blazers and Warriors get together, it is a must-see basketball. You have arguably the two best point guards in the NBA going quite actually shot for shot with one another, from everywhere on the court. So enjoy it, man. We must enjoy Damian Lillard while he's still here. I'm not here to talk about how bad Portland is. Well, maybe not how bad they are, but how they're really not going to do anything this year. I'm not here to use the Houston Rockets defense as a cop out because, as I already mentioned at the top of this story, when someone is locked in like that, there are few people that can stop it, and it's not just as simple as double teaming. When they get into the paint, you're not gonna trap at half court for the entirety of a basketball game. That is a strategy reserved for playoff series. Like you may do it every now and then, but it's not feasible to trap at half court every possession a guy like Damian Lillard or Steph Curry because they're just going to beat you elsewhere. As spectacular as Dame was from the perimeter, he was still getting to the cup. He was still getting to the free throw line. He was still getting downhill. He was still being aggressive. So I'm just here to celebrate the greatness. I don't care if it came against a bad team because great players simply put up numbers.